Here's a moment in their recent conversation where Dwayne Johnson drops his guard completely. It happens when Brendan Fraser, with characteristic humility, dismisses Johnson's effusive gratitude for launching his Hollywood career. "You were always the right guy for the job," Fraser responds, and suddenly the billion-dollar brand dissolves. For a brief instant, we see not The Rock, not the motivational machine, but simply Dwayne. Vulnerable, genuinely moved, almost childlike in his relief at receiving validation from someone whose opinion genuinely matters. This exchange, captured in what should have been routine promotional content, reveals something profound about modern celebrity authenticity. While Johnson has spent decades perfecting his image as Hollywood's most genuine superstar, it took sitting across from Fraser's unmanufactured vulnerability to expose just how carefully constructed that authenticity really is. The conversation becomes an inadvertent masterclass in the difference between performed realness and actual human connection. The authenticity paradox. Fraser and Johnson represent two radically different approaches to public persona management in the social media age. Fraser's authenticity emerges from his willingness to be broken in public. His career collapse, his physical struggles, his emotional breakdown at Venice Film Festival captured in real time. Johnson's authenticity, conversely, is built on invulnerability. The meticulously documented 4 a.m. workouts, the relentless motivational mantras, the positivity that never seems to crack even under the most intense scrutiny. Yet, when these two philosophical approaches collide in their conversation, something remarkable happens. Fraser's genuine praise, "You nailed it, dude, you got me in the feels," about Johnson's performance in Smashing Machine, triggers a response that feels startlingly different from Johnson's usual media interactions. His defenses drop, his corporate speak disappears, and we glimpse the genuine insecurity and need for artistic validation beneath the armor of brand management. The contrast becomes even sharper when Fraser describes his own relationship with vulnerability. His discussion of rental family and the loneliness his character explores feels lived in, personal. When he talks about the Japanese rental family agencies existing since the 1980s, or his co-star's experience of feeling trapped between worlds, these aren't talking points. They're observations from someone who's genuinely curious about human experience, rather than managing his public image. The Venice moment, when authenticity collides with performance. The most revealing section comes when Johnson describes his Venice Film Festival experience for Smashing Machine. His confession, "I felt like this is not for me. This is pretend," during his 15.5-minute standing ovation, represents a fundamental crack in the mythology he's spent years constructing. Here's a man who commands $30 million per film, whose social media posts routinely generate millions of interactions, questioning whether he deserves artistic recognition when it's finally offered. Fraser's response is instructive in its complete lack of manufactured wisdom or brand messaging. Having experienced his own Venice triumph, he normalizes Johnson's discomfort with genuine empathy. "That house won't let you be humble. They put you on the spot." This isn't corporate speak or carefully crafted inspiration. It's hard-earned understanding from someone who's been genuinely broken and rebuilt without a publicity team managing the process. The Venice moment reveals something crucial about Johnson's relationship with success. For all his achievements, his genuine emotional response suggests he's never quite convinced himself he belongs in spaces that celebrate artistry over box office returns. Fraser, having lost everything and found it again, demonstrates a different relationship with achievement, one that doesn't require constant validation or performance. The corporate conditioning, Vince McMahon's lasting impact. Perhaps the most psychologically damaging revelation comes when Johnson discusses his WWE conditioning under Vince McMahon. "Vince and the company always told me, 'You can't smile enough.' Gratitude of attitude. Just ignore it. Keep smiling." This programming, smile through everything, maintain positivity regardless of circumstances, explains the uncanny valley quality that often characterizes Johnson's public persona. This corporate conditioning runs deeper than simple media training. It represents a fundamental rewiring of authentic emotional response. When faced with hostile crowds chanting "Rocky sucks," Johnson was taught to smile through it, to perform gratitude even when experiencing rejection. This training created a public figure who struggles to access or display genuine emotional range beyond prescribed positivity. Fraser never received this conditioning. His career peaked and collapsed organically without corporate machinery managing his emotional responses. When he returns to prominence, it's without the protective shell of manufactured messaging. His vulnerability feels genuine because it is. He has nothing left to lose and no carefully constructed image to protect. The Smashing Machine. Revelation. Seeking artistic validation. Smashing Machine represents Johnson's most ambitious attempt to break free from his own mythology and establish legitimate artistic credibility. But even here, the manufactured nature of his brand intrudes on genuine artistic expression. He describes the film as his dream and living my dream, language that sounds suspiciously similar to his usual promotional messaging, even when discussing what should be his most personal creative achievement. Fraser, by contrast, discusses Rental Family and The Whale with quiet specificity that reveals genuine artistic curiosity. He talks about Japanese theater traditions, the complexity of modern loneliness, the technical challenges of prosthetics, details that suggest someone engaging with material for its intrinsic interest rather than its potential to enhance his brand. His artistic choices seem driven by genuine fascination with human experience rather than career calculation. The difference extends to how they discuss their collaborators. Johnson's praise tends toward superlatives and brand-friendly language, while Fraser offers specific, observed details about his co-stars and directors. When Fraser describes his young co-star's experience feeling trapped between worlds as a mixed-race child, it's clear he's genuinely absorbed her story, rather than simply collecting talking points. The Mirror Effect. What genuine vulnerability reveals. Fraser functions as an unexpected mirror for Johnson throughout their conversation, reflecting back what authentic vulnerability actually looks like when it's not performed for an audience. When Fraser describes his post-Oscar feeling, "I don't have anything to prove," Johnson immediately responds with what reveals his fundamental misunderstanding. "If you think he's not going to be hungry anymore, not him." This exchange exposes Johnson's inability to conceive of success that doesn't require constant hustle and self-promotion. He projects his own relentless drive onto Fraser's more balanced perspective, revealing how deeply the hardest worker in the room, mythology, has shaped his worldview. Fraser's peaceful acceptance of his achievements contrasts sharply with Johnson's apparent need to constantly justify and re-earn his position. The mirror effect becomes even more pronounced when Fraser discusses his approach to difficult material. His description of playing Charlie in The Whale, "I left it all out there," lacks Johnson's typical hyperbole while somehow feeling more genuine. Fraser's willingness to discuss failure, physical limitations, and emotional breakdown provides a stark contrast to Johnson's relentless positivity. The cost of invincibility, the psychological prison of perfection. The conversation exposes the significant psychological toll of Johnson's approach to public life. His admission that everything felt pretend during his Venice triumph suggests deep imposter syndrome that no amount of box office success has managed to resolve. Meanwhile, Fraser's obvious comfort with his own journey, including its spectacular failures, demonstrates a healthier relationship with both success and authenticity. Johnson has inadvertently created what might be called a prison of positivity. Every public appearance must reinforce the brand: hardworking, grateful, indestructible, inspirational. Fraser's presence in the conversation reveals how exhausting this constant performance must be, and how rarely Johnson allows himself to simply exist without serving his carefully constructed image. The authenticity arms race, when being real becomes performance. In our current celebrity landscape, authenticity itself has become perhaps the most valuable marketing tool. Johnson recognized this trend early in the social media age, building his brand on real moments. The gym videos, the family content, the motivational speeches delivered directly to his audience without traditional media intermediaries. But authenticity performed for an audience, no matter how skillfully, inevitably becomes performance rather than authenticity. Fraser represents a different evolutionary path, authenticity that emerges from genuine experience rather than brand strategy. His comeback wasn't carefully managed or strategically planned. It simply happened when he stopped trying to control his narrative and allowed his actual story to unfold publicly. The result feels far more genuine because it includes elements no publicist would ever recommend or approve. The Brendan Fraser Effect. Genuine presence exposing performance. Fraser's influence on Johnson throughout their conversation is subtle but profound. As they talk, Johnson's typical corporate speak softens. His responses become more specific and personal, and for brief moments, the authentic person emerges from behind the carefully maintained brand. This isn't conscious on Fraser's part. It's simply the natural effect of genuine presence exposing performance by contrast. This is what we might call the Fraser Effect. The way genuine vulnerability can reveal manufactured authenticity simply by existing alongside it. Fraser doesn't criticize Johnson's approach or challenge his methods. He simply embodies an alternative way of being public, and the contrast becomes illuminating for anyone paying attention. The effect is particularly noticeable when they discuss their craft. Fraser's specific observations about acting, his detailed discussion of working with different directors, his thoughtful analysis of character motivation, all of this contrasts with Johnson's more generalized, brand-friendly responses. The difference suggests not a gap in intelligence or insight, but rather the limiting effect of constant image management on genuine expression. Conclusion: the man behind the machine. The conversation between Fraser and Johnson ultimately reveals the fundamental tension in modern celebrity: the increasingly impossible task of being authentically inauthentic. Johnson's empire depends on performed realness, while Fraser's resurgence demonstrates what actual authenticity looks like when it's not being managed for public consumption. In the end, Fraser's greatest gift to Johnson in their conversation isn't career advice or industry wisdom. It's simply existing as proof that there's another way to be famous. Messily, imperfectly, genuinely human. For viewers, the conversation offers a rare glimpse behind the authenticity machine, revealing both its impressive construction and its ultimate limitations. The billion-dollar authenticity machine keeps running, its social media posts and motivational content generating engagement and maintaining Johnson's position as one of the world's most followed celebrities. But for those few moments, sitting across from Brendan Fraser's unguarded humanity, we glimpse something more valuable than any brand could manufacture: the actual person behind the performance.